Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another sweet episode of your and my one-stop podcast. This is Afro Journal Podcast, where we bring you stories that are impacting lives, where we bring you amazing personalities doing great work in the Black community, and of course, where we dissect issues affecting our everyday life right here in Canada. Before I proceed, I would have to plead with you. Please, if you've not subscribed to our channel as yet, if you've not liked or shared, please do that. That is how we get the green light that we are doing things that are amazing. Our guest on today's episode knows no introduction. He is not new to the tabloids. He's not new to the cameras. As a matter of fact, sometimes I extrapolate how he's able to merge the cameras and the works together because as a CEO, his job is extremely tasking. Someone who through his adversities and challenges was able to build an amazing, a mind-blowing digital banking platform right here that has more than 10,000 downloads. He is the CEO and the founder of the most prestigious, of the first Black-owned digital banking platform right here in Canada, Expedia Incorporated. His name is Mr. Kingsley Madu. Sir, how are you doing? Yes! Yes!
Well, I am doing well, but I don't think that introduction was for me. But I'm doing well. I'm all right. Last, I'm all right.
Right. What's going on?
Well, anyways, thank you for that introduction. I'm not used to such elaborate introductions, to be honest. So I want to say thank you, but other than that, yes, I'm fine. I'm hanging in there.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was supposed to have happened before now.
I know.
But I spoke to my producer and I said that
I know
it will still happen.
It will happen.
First off, before we start, on behalf of me and my amazing team, Afro Journal Podcast team, we want to sincerely thank you for the works that you are doing for the Black community. For PIBOC, we want to thank you so very, very much. It is not easy. It takes a lot of sleepless nights. It takes a lot of brain tasking. It takes a lot of hard work, networking. But we want to thank you. You are making us proud, and so we say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'm okay, hanging in there, doing what we know how to do best, right?
Yeah, so we have things to talk about, things to speak about, and it is great that you are here. I'm going to start like this. Mm-hmm. You've been to about 15 countries. That's how I'm starting.
Yep.
But you decided to settle in Canada. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I followed through the trajectory of some of your interviews, and I was able to deduce some of the questions I'm going to ask. Of all the 15 countries you went to, why did you decide to settle for Canada?
Good one. Well, again, thank you for having me. Let's start from there.
You're welcome,
I don't take it for granted, and I want to say a very big thank you. I know you said that I'm not new to the cameras and all of that, but at every opportunity, I'm still grateful, and I want to say thank you for having me. I'm humbled to be here, and happy to keep contributing and giving back as much as I can. Canada. Why did we decide to call Canada home? Oh, Canada. I know, right? With all the snow and the weather, like of all places, right? So, funny enough, my wife actually grew up here.
Okay, that's a start.
So that's number one.
Okay.
And then we used to live in the US, and then when we decided to, and I was like moving all over the world, and I'm like, okay, where would be the closest place that was easiest to get to in terms of flight, right? In terms of routing flights and all of that.
Okay.
And we figured that there were two places in North America that was the easiest to get to. One was New York.
Okay.
One was Toronto.
Okay.
So, and then we looked at it, okay. And then with her affinity to Canada, I said, okay, last, let it be Canada. So we moved down here. That was really the final decision making for us to come to Canada.
So of all these times
Yeah.
you were going around different countries, I'm curious to ask, this is my fascination, springing my curiosity to ask, were you in some sort of tourism business or something?
No, I wasn't.
Tell us
I wasn't.
about it. Why the whole
Okay,
movement?
so then this is probably going to make you act. This is probably going to amaze you a little bit, but it's okay. So I spent roughly almost 20 years in the oil and gas industry.
Oh, wow.
And then you wonder, are you that old? I know. That's a different conversation for another day. We'll pack that first. I spent almost 20 years in the oil and gas industry. I worked for the 3 largest oil servicing companies.
Wow.
They were all Fortune 500 actually. Wow. And then that made me really travel a lot. Because of the work I was doing there, I was mostly leading technology. And so whenever there was fire on the mountain or they need to deploy a new technology or something, I was the go-to person. So that really made me travel lots globally, right? So that's the primary reason. It was mostly due to work. And then you would go there, you would live there. I would live in places for maybe 6 months, sometimes a year, sometimes a little over a year, and then move on to the next location. So it was quite extensive in that sense.
So people see, and I'm sure we're going to get to the part of some of the advices that you have to give for startup, because you are no more a startup. I mean, you were spotlighted by Google. You are no more a startup, sir. The fact that you got spotlighted by Google means that you are doing an incredible job. You are no more a startup. So we'll get to that part of how startup who probably want to go into fintech, can navigate through the process. People oftentimes see that the grass is greener. They see the beauty.
I know.
On the outside.
I know.
But for every journey, there is a story.
Talk to me about it.
Now, we know that, at some point you were stranded, right from Toronto piercing, all of that process, we know. However, before you started your job, before you started this business that is taking huge flight, what were some of the jobs you were doing? We're going to come to the part of how you were able to, navigate through those challenges. But first, because we don't really hear that part. What were some of the jobs you were doing before you decided to start your business?
So by jobs, you mean the jobs I did here, right?
Yes, of course.
In Canada?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so... okay. My first year in Canada, I was jobless.
Again?
Yeah. I was jobless. Wow. Nobody would hire me.
Wow.
I wasn't good enough.
With all your experiences?
With all my international Fortune 500 global experience, it was still not enough for the Canadian experience.
Wow.
For 1 year, I struggled to get a job. It was just almost impossible. I mean, at some point, some very nice recruiters would ask me, do you have Canadian experience? And I would say, what is that? It was later I realized they were saying, has anybody ever in Canada hired you? I'm like, no, nobody has hired me. And they're like, okay, sorry, your resume is impressive. You've done a lot, but we just can't hire you. I remember when it was really getting very hard, like very, very hard to survive without a source of income and all of that. And a very good friend of mine, I reached out and said, hey, I hear about this place. They are hiring. I know the hiring manager. I could, recommend you or put a word for you. At that point, like, dude, anything goes, like anything, bring it on. Apparently, it was a warehouse. And they needed somebody that would be offloading goods, that would be, a weight lift or something that would be. Forklifting.
Okay. Oh.
So I sent him my resume, and then my friend sent it back and said, no, not this kind of resume. This is a CEO level resume. Remove it. Just a one-pager is okay. Put your name, your address, your number. Say you know how to do this. Remove school, remove... And I did that. I remember I did that. I sent it in. That was January 2021. I sent it in. And shortly after, I received the call from the HR. Oh, we're happy to offer you the job. You expect the job offer letter. And then they sent it to me. I had it in my hands. Funny enough, I got that letter while in the hospital. Why was I at the hospital? My little boy was sick. Whoa. And he was on admission at the hospital. So I was the one staying with him in the hospital. Went in hospital for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So no income in the hospital. Right? Crazy. And then this comes and I looked at it. For some reason, I cried. And then after I cried, I called the HR and I said, no, I'm not going to take it.
You declined?
I declined.
Wow.
I declined. My friend thought I was either stupid or proud. Like, you have to be one of them. Like, dude, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Look at your situation. You are in no place to decline this job. And I said, yes. But I'll tell you why I'm declining. He said, why? I said, I have a daughter at home who always asks me, Daddy, did you get a job? So when I go home from this hospital, she will ask me, Daddy, did you get a job? And I'll say, yes. They say, what job is that? And I'll tell her, I'm not a forklifter. Don't get me wrong, there's dignity in labor.
100.
There's absolute dignity in every labor.
100.
Okay. But I could imagine the disappointment on her face. I could imagine it. And then I asked myself, on what grounds will I ever demand greatness from her? On what grounds will I ever demand her to be somebody? So I said, yes, I know I'm hungry. I know I have to pay bills. But her destiny, her future is more important than my present.
Word.
So because of her future, I'm going to decline. She's used to it already for the last 1 year, knowing that Dad doesn't have a job, but Daddy will get one soon. So let's keep it that way. That was January. And then March, I got an email for an interview.
Okay.
When I got the email, I was like, I wrote back to the HR like, could you send me the job description? Because I didn't remember the job that I applied for. Like, because I have put in almost 600 applications.
You said what?
Almost 600 applications in that 1 year.
What?
Yes. Like, I was applying like no man's business. So I didn't even know which one was this.
Oops.
So I went back months back, almost 4 months back, to go to find the application. And then I saw everything. And then I started preparing for the interview. And luckily enough, I got the job. And that was my first job in Canada since then. So, but yeah, it was, the first 1 year was tough to say the least.
But since you now have a job,
yeah,
was it not enough for, I want to know the spirit. Mm-hmm. I want to know the motivation. I want to know the driving force that still told you that job you got was not where you were supposed to be. You already got a job, which some persons, I feel they're okay with 9 to 5. As long as it is a regular source of income, they are okay with it. Some want more.
Yeah.
What was that motivating force that was telling you this is not enough for you?
So, before the job, while I was jobless, mostly sitting down at home, I was actually building Expedia. Oh. That was the time I was spending developing the platform, building it out. So it was also a good time for me.
Oh, I
you
see.
I was already live on MVP. So when I got the job, Expedia was still there. Last, right?
Okay.
So, and I just continued from then on. I didn't stop. I just continued, right? For me in particular, I always have this thing about me that there's this thing in my head that tells me that I couldn't possibly have come this far only to come this far. It's a thing in my head. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere in my head. Yeah, right? And that's just that driving force that keeps internally pushing me forward. Even when I don't want to move, it will move me. Right? And that's the same thing I tell everybody. If you're going to play ball, why play low ball? You might as well play high ball or don't play ball at all.
Don't play ball at all.
No? Yeah. If you're going to play ball, then play high ball, right? So for me, I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, right? And as they say, the rest is history, but we'll see.
The process through Expedia now being a force to reckon with. Yeah. A lot of challenges were very, very pronounced.
Oh God, you have no
I'm
idea.
sure at some point you went to banks to pitch. I'm sure at some point you went to some other places to make sure that the word Expedia is on the lips of every immigrant, of everybody who are here in Canada. Walk us through some of those challenges.
One of the things I tell pretty much anybody or entrepreneurs is that challenges, the issues of life, these challenges, they are the bread and butter of life. And I will explain why, right? Look at a child, a baby who is learning to walk. They will stumble and fall, right? They will bruise themselves, but they keep walking. They keep trying. Why? And without going through that process, they will never walk.
Word.
Make sense?
Word.
Correct. So it therefore follows that challenges are bread and butter to help us walk, to help us achieve anything. We had our fair share and we are still having our fair share every day till date. I tell you. I remember the first year of Expedia, nobody, like when I mean nobody, not even the banks, nobody wanted to even associate with us.
Wow.
Nobody wanted to have anything to do with us. Nobody. Like, just the mere mention, nobody, like, it was like, don't even, like, stay at, just stay away. Nobody. Right? Imagine building a platform. I remember, and not when I mean nobody, even from within the community.
What?
Yeah. I remember pitching Expedia to about 7 or 8 of my friends, and like, let's do this. This is going to be a big thing. Let's do it, right? And on the day we're supposed to start, a Sunday like this, we got together and I made the final pitch, like, let's do this. And there and then on the call, 6 of them said, no, we can't do this for whatever reason. And please, I respect their decision.
Wow.
No hard feelings. I respect that decision. Till date, we are like 5 and 6, all of them. Like, it doesn't impact the relationship. Sure. Make sense? But they all said no, except one person, Michael Obembe, my brother, and I don't know how else to describe the guy, right? Like, he's just amazing, right? He said, let's do this. I remember going into depression for like 2 weeks because of what happened.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember. I remember speaking to seasoned mentors in the community, and they all said, don't do this. It's not going to work. Like, don't bother.
The mentor said it's not going to work.
Yeah. I remember speaking to some other mentor, a white guy now, and after like 30 minutes on the phone, he told me, best advice, stop now, this will fail, you can't go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I suffered depression for a few weeks because of that.
Wow.
Like these guys are well established in their space. They're like authority. So if they're telling you, you should know now, like this thing is not going to work. But every time that thing in my head would tell me, go again. It was tough. It is still tough. Maybe not as tough as before, but it is still tough. But then, again, as I said, those challenges are the bread and butter of the success story.
I am quite fascinated. You are smiling now because it feels more like story, you know. Then it wasn't like a story. It is me putting myself in your shoes and being very empathetic enough to understand that that point, you were not smiling like this. Now it is more like, those days. Those days. I understand. Tell me.
I was working 3 jobs at a point just to support Expedia. So with Expedia, it was 4.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. In fact, up until mid last year, that was the case.
Wow.
Yes. That was the case.
Hey, God.
But nobody would know. That was the case.
You are, tell me.
We didn't get funding to build Expedia. Nobody would so we had to bootstrap, right?
Even the black communities that have,
we didn't get funding.
They have funding for startup.
We couldn't get. We applied. Everybody said no. We didn't get funding. So I had 2 options: stop, or grind your bones and keep going.
Wow.
So myself and Michael, he was doing multiple jobs. I was doing multiple jobs. And every penny and dime we could get out of those jobs, we will bump it into Expedia. And, you know, we kept going. So let me make you laugh. This will probably make you laugh. I mean, today, about 98% of Expedia is completely automated now. APIs and smart engines and AIs doing all of the what they do. But the first 2 years of Expedia, every transaction was manually processed.
You are kidding me.
By myself.
You are kidding me.
I'm not. And I gave myself 15 minutes maximum to process every transaction. Over 4,000 transactions on Expedia in the span of 2 years was manually processed.
What?
By day, by night, doesn't matter.
You are one type of entrepreneur, sir. Manually
processed, and within 15 minutes. Even if I was sleeping and a transaction hit, I would get up. My phone was always by my side. It would make a particular noise, particular sound. I know that this particular sound is Expedia's sound. Get up, go and treat it. For between 2020 and up until, again, you're making me say stories that typically I shouldn't say, but maybe for the sake of this, up until about September last year, I was averaging about 4 hours of sleep every day in 24 hours.
Wow.
Between January 2024 and about April 2024, in January 2024, I ended up in the hospital because I wasn't getting enough sleep, so I ended up in ER.
Wow.
And
emergency room?
Yeah, I ended up in the ER. It was very severe. Ended up in the ER. And then the doctor, I mean, ER here is not the best of ERs, I'm sorry to say it, but after spending the whole day, the doctor like, Chief, look, there's nothing wrong with you. You're under tremendous stress. You're not sick per se, but your stress levels are high.
And the way he's saying it.
You need to take it easy. So I'm like, okay, so Then I had to wear these heart monitors and vital sign monitors on me everywhere I was going. I had the monitors hooked up underneath my clothes.
Wow.
But people didn't know I was going about with that, and still doing what I do. No complaints, right? But then up until about September last year, let go of those jobs and just focused exclusively on Expedia and all of that. Again, all of this is just to say that challenges are the bread and butter of everyday success stories. There isn't anything like overnight success. And you just have to make up your mind and tell yourself, either I'm in this for the longest run of my life, or I'm just here for the fun of it. And if it gets too hard, then I stop. For me and Michael, we are in this for the longest haul of our lives. So bring it on. I'm sorry, that was a mouthful.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I was speaking with my very good producer, and whilst we're talking, it was about you, by the way, and how you've built your business. But then there are some key things that strike us and would like to know about it. First, was it the hardship from Toronto Pearson Airport to you being stranded at the hotel and all of those adversities that caused you to create Expedia, or it was already in the works? You had that sort of inclination that at some point I will create this platform and tilt it towards Immigrants and tilt it towards PIBOC, or just run us through it.
It was the hardship when I landed.
It was the hardship. It was the
So
hardship.
I've lived in, it's a little over 15 nations, but Google tracked 15 of them, so which is fine. So I've lived in 15 countries. I could say that I've seen a good portion of the world, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. So in my head, how bad can it get, right? Let's go to Canada. It's not America now. We've been there before. We've lived there before. How bad can it get, right? But nothing prepared me for how bad it could get. And it really got very bad. Like, it got very, very bad.
Yeah.
And in all of that condition, that thing in my head that would tell me to find a way out, find a solution, started working in my brain to find a solution. And initially, I just wanted to find a solution for myself. That's the honest truth. I just wanted to build Expedia to solve my problem. Right? And then solved my problem, and then realized that I wasn't the only one that had that problem, actually. Like millions of people have that similar problem. Different degrees, but millions of people have the same problem. And then friends will hear of it and say, well, we have the problem. Give us the app. We want to use it too. And it started growing and becoming a thing. And it got to a point where it just outgrew the two of us, right? But what really started it was that experience, that horrible experience. And in my desperation, looking for a solution and finding that there wasn't any existing solution, like, this thing is not so hard. We can actually build a solution. Now that we've built the solution and we're a little bit more knee deep into it, I've come to realize that the initial problem we even wanted to solve is way bigger than we thought it was. It's incredibly bigger than we thought it was. In Canada today, the Black demography is about the only visible minority group without its own financial institution undergirding it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I started a few years back before we started Expedia, right? So now that alone speaks volume to the challenge that we are facing, right? I've come across Black-owned businesses who's been in business for a few years, 5, 6, 7, sometimes decades. They still can't get a simple loan to run the business from their banks, right? They don't have access to credit facilities. They're still struggling to scale the business. I've come across massive business owners from other regions of the world who emigrate here and they can't find sustainable funding to replicate what they've done elsewhere in the world. It's not just possible, right? And that's when we realized how big this problem was. That's why we're building what we're building now, to solve that problem for that demography. According to Statistics Canada, this is not me making up numbers now, almost 20% of the Canadian population, mostly BIPOC, are underserved, financially underserved.
Wow.
And about 13% are underbanked.
This is colossal.
It is big. We're talking in excess of 10 million people.
This is colossal.
10 million people. So it is big, and that's what we want to solve. We want to make access to financial facilities a whole lot easier for the BIPOC community so that we can build wealth together as a collective, so that businesses can scale larger, right? Yeah, so that businesses can scale larger, so that we can grow as a community. That's the whole essence of what we're doing now.
Before we go into some of the nuggets we would give entrepreneurs who want to start fintech, and we'll also get to all of this part. But first, I'm curious to ask, the word Expedia. The word Expedia. Now, let me demystify. Let me be lucid, right? Everybody, there's a name behind every name.
Correct.
When Rolls-Royce was founded in 1906, it was founded by Henry Rolls and Charles Royce. When Lamborghini was founded, it was Ferruccio Lamborghini, I beg your pardon.
Yep.
When Ferrari was founded, it was Enzo Ferrari.
Yep.
When Benz was founded, it was Carl Benz. Now, Expedia. Because I know your name is Mr. Kingsley Madu. I try to put those words together. They don't follow.
Now,
where did it come from?
Okay, so it came mostly from 3 things. I will only say 2 of them. I won't tell you the last one. But 2 is that
your wife is among one of them.
No.
Some alphabets of your wife's name.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
It's got none of that on it.
All right.
So, Expedia is a French word, first off.
Okay.
It's the same root word as expedient, meaning to fast track or to make something fast, to expedite.
Oh, yeah, to make it
It's
fast,
the same root word, right?
Oh, okay.
And that is to say, we want to make financial services fast and easily accessible and fast.
Oh.
That's the fundamental thing for us
Okay,
there,
now
right? For example, people that use us for cross-border remittance, the first thing they say, oh, this thing is so fast. That's us. We want to make it seamlessly fast for everybody. So that's number 1. Then number 2 is that, as I said, it's a French word, and I lived extensively in Francophone Africa, West Africa, for about 4 years.
Okay.
So I picked up a lot of French. I used to be very fluent in French, but I've lost it. Don't ask me to speak French. No, I've lost that. So from Francophone Africa, French, and then the need to build something that was fast, and the need for a name that was sort of unique, right? That then coined the word Expedia and said, okay, let's use that. So that's...
Now I know. So when next I am mentioning Expedia, I already know that,
yes,
it's to make it. And amazing, by the way, amazing. Now, because I've been wondering, like, where is the name coming from, like, Kingsley Madu?
It's
not...
No.
I tried.
Nothing.
Because some people try to, they try to do that. They pick some alphabets to create something meaningful out of it.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Now, this is a message sent by my own producer. I call him the wicked producer. A lot of startups start with solving one particular problem. Along the line, they get successful. Then they start to deviate from the reason it was founded in the first place. How are we sure? How are we most certain that 10 years from now, Expedia will still be solving the same problem for which it was created in the first place?
Great question. Last year, December, about 2 months ago, I met up with a friend. Last time we were together was in 2021. So that's about 3 years. And he was asking me, how far Expedia? And I was gisting him where we've come from, but where we are going. And after gisting, he was like, that's exactly what you told me 3 years ago. You're still telling me the same thing. I said, yes, because the vision hasn't changed. That's number one. So number two, because we've not even solved that vision. Like we've not fully solved that vision. So it's not changed, right? The ultimate goal for us in Expedia, right? It's the day that we collect. Okay, there's a weird rule in this nation, Canada. The word bank is trademarked by the government. Okay. You can't use the word bank. The only two sort of organizations that can use the word bank. The first one can use it for free, which is like food bank. If you're the food bank, then you can use the word bank. But if you're not a food bank, you can't use the word bank in anything you do. For you to use the word bank, the government has to formally license you. And authorize you to use that word bank. Okay? So, for us, it's that day that the government themselves will make the announcement for us and say, yes, we've licensed you to use this word. We have licenses to do what we're doing right now, to offer the everyday banking solutions that we offer. But we are waiting for that day where there would be that announcement of the first government recognized or licensed BIPOC bank, and they give us that name to use. That's where we are ultimately headed to for us at Expedia. That's the goal. That's where we're headed.
So 10 years from now,
no, it's going to
still be the same.
Yes, it's not going to change. We already have our goals set. We know where we're headed. We're not chasing fancy. We're not here for fancy. We have our clear North Star, and we are headed there. Straight up.
Straightforward.
Straight. No deviation. No
deviation.
Straight. We know where we're headed. It's clear to us where we are going.
Is it true that now I'm painting this on a canvas through your experience? Is it true that some of the groundbreaking entrepreneurs that we have started their job from the frustrations around them? You agree?
Yeah. Yes.
So are we saying that if there are no frustrations, we can't have groundbreaking innovations or groundbreaking entrepreneurs doing amazing stuff?
Not necessarily. There's a saying that necessity, is it necessity or adversity is the mother of innovation?
Adversity.
So that is one way, right, where folks get to do things. Some see a need and they feel the need, and that's also a valid way, right? Some see an opportunity and they latch on to that opportunity. Some find themselves somewhat mysteriously in the space and they just ride the waves, right? But you see those ones that have a very hardcore belief in what they are doing came from adversity. They are the diehards.
We die here.
We die here. Yeah. And at Expedia, we faced it countless times. It will be so rough, you'll feel like the next day you are closing shop, and I'll call the team and say, not today. March on. No, you never, not today. Die here. No. So those are the die-hard ones. Yeah.
What are some of the, before we start giving advices to startups who, especially for the Black community, those who want to start, because people are also saying that this land we are on right now, Canada, a lot of people thrive through businesses. So we want to let them know, especially for the fintech landscape, we want to know some of the nuggets you want to give them to start up. But for business, what are the key principles of business that are like pillars guiding one to get recognized like Expedia right now to the point where you are through your experience?
So I'll share a few. There are a lot of them, to be honest. They're well thought school of thoughts that have articulated those, but I'll share a few. And that's because today, one of the ways I give back is by being a coach. I'm not a mentor coach. I mentor younger folks in the startup field, right? I do that through 2 organizations in the Waterloo region, right? And some of these startups come to me and they say, oh, they share their burden, essentially, and they ask for direction. And I share some of this through that I'm about to share now. Some of them sound counterintuitive, but I will explain.
Okay.
Your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is not building the solution, it is selling the solution.
I want that to resonate. Please say it again.
Your biggest challenge is not building the solution, it is selling the solution.
Wow.
The best products do not sell themselves. They don't win the market. What wins the market is the most sold product.
Word.
Coca-Cola is sugar and what? Color. Yet, they are the highest
beverage brand in the world.
They gross the highest
beverage
in the
brand.
world.
Very true.
What people don't know is that Coca-Cola is a marketing agency. It's not a beverage company.
Wow.
People don't know that. They spend the highest in advertisement.
Yes, they do. Yes. They do. Constantly.
The red and white Santa Claus that you know today is a product of Coca-Cola. The best products don't sell themselves. The most marketed product, if I may use that word, sells. So your biggest problem is not building that solution. Your biggest problem is selling it. Number 2, before you build, sell. That sounds very stupid. How do you sell what you've not built?
True.
Okay. If you've heard of pre-construction in Canada, pre-construction homes, right? They're selling it to you before they even construct it. It's called pre-construction. Why have they not finished selling before
they start selling
thank you. They should have finished building.
Before they start selling.
No, but they're selling before they build. It's called pre-construction. Till today, Apple is over $1 trillion company. But whenever they want to launch their next iPhone, they will do pre-order.
It's already sold out even before it launches.
They tell you pre-order.
Yes, before you even launches, it's already
out.
out.
Why are they doing pre-order? Till today. They should have gone to build first, knowing that we have the market.
Yeah.
No, sir. They still don't do that till today. They will still do pre-order before they launch. So if they at their size are still doing that,
who are you?
Well, exactly. Let's learn from them. Samsung does the same thing. The auto industry does the same thing. Everybody does the same thing.
True.
Right? So I tell them, sell first before you build. And I give you a simple example. create a wait list. Okay? Create a wait list. If you can get 1,000 people to sign up to your wait list, then you have a product. Go and sell. You have a business. Go and build the product. If you can convince 1,000 people to sign up, to say, if you launch this product, we are going to take it, then go and take it. Before we launched our debit, this thing on Expedia, the cards, debit cards on Expedia, we first put out a wait list on the app. And we told people, join the wait list, and we gave simple features of the card and what it was going to do. And we told people, okay, join the wait list. And people were joining the wait list. And once we got to about 500 people, we knew that, okay, if we launch this card, we'll have at least 500 people waiting. So I tell folks, building is not your first priority. Selling is. Because it's costing you money to build. And once you have built, you will forever have a cost of maintenance.
True.
So if you spend money building, and now you're spending more money trying to maintain what you've built, and you don't have people to use it to give you revenue.
True.
It's a recipe for failure.
It's a recipe. It's a huge one. Yes. It's a very huge one. For Fintech now, more specifically, more categorically, Fintech. Is there? We know that you went through the eyes of adversities. Now God know, now only small. You understand? You went now only now God say this guy, I have a special heart for him. Some from there just go to the next one.
They just go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
But we're here today, and each time I see that you smile from a standpoint of I've been there. I know what it feels like. For Fintech, especially for the Black community, is there a market?
Yes. The market is humongous. And I'll tell you why. I'm a numbers person. So I won't just say yes, I'll give you the numbers.
Please give us.
Okay? So, but before I give numbers, when we were building Expedia, one of the so-called experts I spoke to told me...
Still a so-called expert.
yeah, because they are no longer valid. Yeah. I have proven them wrong. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Expedia has proven them wrong. They said, don't build this for the Black community. I said, why? They said, because the Black community is not financially viable.
Wow.
I said, sir, you're wrong.
Wow.
There isn't any data that supports that. In fact, the data supports the reverse. Let me prove it to you, sir.
Please.
I'm sure you know the proof of funds for immigration to come to Canada.
Let's not even go there.
For a family of 4, it's about $50,000 for a proof of funds, give or take. Right?
True.
The annual median salary in Canada is about the same $50,000.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So meaning that somebody that's worked for 1 year in Canada will earn $50,000, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big money. That's what you are asking the average immigrant to bring with them to Canada, and they are bringing it. Because every year you bring in at least 500,000 of us, and yet you say we are poor. How many people in Canada can afford that kind of money?
Word.
Which is an annual salary.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. So we are not poor, sir. We are very financially viable. Hello. No, we are not poor. Many of us will come in. We are still not going to get the job that we want to get, right?
True.
And we continue to support our lifestyle from funds from back home. Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
True.
So we are just financially prudent.
Word.
We are financially prudent. We are not reckless spenders.
True.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
We're not reckless spenders. The average guy may want to buy a house or a car. Okay? He won't go and pick the latest brand new Rolls Royce off the shelf. No. He'll go and look for one Aloku and carry and be using, right? Because he wants to preserve his cash flow.
True.
He keeps that cash flow.
True.
Does that make sense?
True.
Thank you. When I immigrated here, my family funds in the bank was more than 6 figures. It was a huge sum. But the bank gave me a $500 credit card limit.
Wow.
Thank you. if I were to be evaluated by that credit card limit, because that is what the financial ecosystem sees. It doesn't see my bank balance. It sees my credit balance. You are evaluated on the strength of your credit balance. Does that make sense?
Not your bank balance, yeah.
Not your bank balance. Now, my credit balance is 500. I must be poor.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Of course, yes.
Thank you. So that's why they say we are not financially viable, because they're looking at credit balance. But the credit balance is not a true reflection of our financial capability.
Status, yeah.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm sure you are all fixated as I am right now, because he came prepared, and I always like having a chit chat with somebody who understands the game of numbers. You need to understand what you're doing and have numbers to back it up. Yeah. People coming into fintech, immigrants coming in and they want to start up in fintech. Yeah. What are some of the nuggets you want to give to them that might get them spotted by Google, or to start up basically? But now we give some nuggets to people who are starting up in business, but more specifically fintech right now, which is your own field. What are some of the nuggets you want to give to them when starting?
Other than what we've said earlier, I would also add and say that before you start, you need to really define for yourself when you are going to quit. Yeah. You need to know. You need to draw that line to say, okay, these are the telltale signs that will tell me enough. I need to pack up and go. Yes, you need to. And the reason is because it's not going to be ever easy. I remember when Google spotlighted us in 2023, and one of my friends, who's also a fellow entrepreneur, he called me and said, man, I know how you've been grinding and your hard work has eventually paid off. So you need to tell yourself when to stop. Okay? So that's on the mindset part. And by the way, one reason why I focus very much on the mindset part is that the mindset determines everything, to be honest.
Of course, that's the powers of the body.
Yes.
True.
But then in terms of the business itself, the actual business itself, right? The actual business itself. Fintech is a game of numbers. Okay?
True.
You have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. Like, when I mean know your numbers, you have to know your numbers. Sometimes when I'm talking with the finance team, I would tell them what is happening before they realize what is happening. I break it down. They are the ones that are crunching the numbers and using the Excel and all of that. But on a very high level, I have seen it. I may not know it as in-depth as they do, but before they go and crunch number to find it, I've already told them, this is what is happening. And that's because I'm a very nitty-gritty numbers person. So you have to know your numbers. But particularly in terms of knowing your numbers, let me also say this. One number you need to keep afloat or keep at the front burner is your expenses compared to your income. Okay? If your expenses are greater than your income, it's a matter of time before you go under. So if you don't have enough savings or enough funding to continue to support that expense, then you need to plan that one out from the beginning. You need to have it all figured out from the beginning, to be honest. Again, that's why I said that my friend and myself and my friend, we were working multiple jobs, and that's just to keep supporting that expense level, right? Because we were hiring, at a point, Expedia, I'd do the two of us, we needed to hire more hands, but then where's the revenue to support hiring those hands? So we had to work to generate the revenue to hire them, to give them back. Does that make sense? So you really need to keep an eye on your expense level. And again, as you know, no startups, but hardly does any startup break even within the first 5 years.
Wow.
Okay? So if you're not going to break even within the first 5 years, where are you going to get the money to be offsetting your expenses or your losses? So you need to have that figured out completely well. Particularly to fintech, you're dealing with people's money. Trust is an issue.
Word.
People have emotional connection to
Money.
their money. You won't find this one in any MBA class or any business school. It's the fact of life. People have emotional connection to their money. And you need to understand that emotional connection. That emotional connection is valid. Except they stole the money. They worked hard now.
True.
Now you want them to trust you with that money. Because you are Kilo J. Who are you? Who are you? So you need to have a playbook to overcome that barrier. If you don't have, nobody's going to trust you. We went through that phase. Today, we have people that just sign up on Expedia and they start using it from day one. And me and Michael would just be laughing. Say, Uga, thank God we've come to this point. I remember the first 100 users, we preached and begged and rolled on the floor. Like, trust me, if anything happen, see my address, come and hold me. Now me day here and all of that. But today,
The one question bothers me. And this was off of our conversation we had before this shoot started. It's concerning funding.
Yeah.
We hear every time that fundings are pretty much available for Black folks, people in the Black community, startups, people who want to delve into some sort of businesses. But you had issues with funding.
I'm still having issues with funding.
Is it that, two things now. First, is it that the project is not laudable enough to attract the funding, or the funding is not available?
The funding is available, but you need to understand that there is severe gatekeeping around the funding. Last year, and this is open space statistics in the public domain, Black-led initiatives got less than 0.3% of the total funding that went to startups.
What?
Less than 0.3, not even less than 1. 0.3%.
There is no funding there, bro.
So you go figure. That again is why we need to build that ecosystem. Yeah. That's why we need to build that ecosystem. So you see, the more I face these challenges, the more I get the reason to keep going. That's why we need it. If Black and look, imagine the other 10 of me that are out there looking for funding to do even greater than what Expedia is doing. Correct. Imagine that. But no access.
No access to funding.
No access.
But we hear it's sometimes now I am more discombobulated because we hear it every time. We have access to Black community funding, access to startups. If you're in the black community, I beg your pardon. If you are this, just write a proposal. And for somebody,
there's a lot of gatekeeping around it.
I am okay. It's okay. No problem. Now, before we wrap up, how do you see AI? People are scared.
I know.
Really scared.
I know.
To some, pretty much advantageous. To the rest, it is like a holocaust.
Yeah.
And some in the fintech say it, yeah, but for you as a person, how do you see AI? Do you see it as advantageous to be humans, or you see it as something that is insidious and will begin to eat deep, and most of the time people will start to lose their jobs and just, not get a job anymore? How do you see AI?
I'm going to say both the bitter and the sweet in my response.
Okay.
Number one, AI is here and is here to stay.
We know.
Let's settle that one.
Let's settle that one.
There's nothing nobody can do about it to make it go away. It's here and it's here to. It's not a bubble. It won't burst. It's here and it's here to stay. Number two, like any innovation, the sum total of its resultant effect will be positive. That's just a fancy way of saying people will lose their jobs, but more jobs will be created. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Some folks will lose their jobs, but more jobs will eventually be created. And let me give you a very classical example. When the airline industry started, people were skeptical. Hey, in the air, hey, no. Let me use road. I know bus. I know car. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But as people became more comfortable with the airline industry and started flying, land transportation began to shrink. Make sense?
Yeah.
And people were losing jobs in the land transportation business. Make sense? Correct. But then the airline needed to hire more hands because they were growing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they created more jobs. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Correct. So the people that will eventually lose their job are the people that are not upskilling. Because the air industry needed more people, needed more hands, right? So if I were in the land transportation business, all I needed to do was to upskill, right? And then I will fit into the job in the airline industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if I refuse to upskill, I'm going to stay there. I'm not going to, and then I'll lose my job eventually. So upskilling is the one way to safeguard your 9 to 5, your job, whatever it is. Right? Mm-hmm. Upskilling is a way. There's hardly any year I don't significantly upskill. I have like 2 MBAs. I've done executive classes. Despite all of this busyness, there's hardly a week that I don't buy a new book. You need to see my library. I just keep reading. Because that's the only way I'm going to stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, I'm going to become redundant. So I tell people, upskill. Take out the time in your busy schedule to learn something new. Start playing, and then lastly, start playing with AI.
Learn to start playing with it.
Play with it. It's safe, mostly. So play with it. Get on funny enough, the one way we can easily access AI today is through our browser. This AI wouldn't they call. Now browser now. All right?
True.
You go to Bing AI, you see Copilot, which is Microsoft AI. You go on to Google, you see their own. What's that? Their own self? I can't remember the name. Forgive me. Google. I should know the name of your AI. Right? You go on to whatever, right? You see this, right? So that's to say that it's easily accessible. Start messing with it. Start toying with it. And before you know it, you get even better and better, and you begin to demystify it. It won't look like something insidious, as you said earlier. So it's here to stay. If we fail to upskill, then we might lose our jobs. So I tell people, upskill, start playing with it, and get yourself comfortable with it.
Why do you feel that people complain, especially job seekers these days, and this is also tilting towards the AI conversation? They complain that HRs and HR managers and recruiting officers, they spot when they use AIs to write their resumes.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the flip side, this same HR use the same AI to write out the job descriptions.
True.
That this guys use in putting up their resume. Is it not somewhat paradoxical?
It is. It is. Indeed, it is. It is. It is. So, yes, AI is there to help, but follow the trend as well. And by that I mean to say, if you note, just like you observe that recruiting managers seemingly don't like to see people using AI in their resume. So just leave it there. Don't use it. Craft your resume as you would normally do that. But in other personal tasks that you do, In other things that you do, begin to inculcate AI into it. Begin to use AI into it, right? Okay. Yes. And even when you finally land that job, find smart ways to use AI to make it faster and more efficient for yourself. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can go on and on and on and on. But you know what time it is? It is the time to draw the curtains of today's edition. But before I do that, Mr. Kingsley, do we have any last words for, more than 10,000 downloads right now, still counting? I use that
Actually,
word.
20,000.
20,000.
We've more than doubled in the last 6 months.
That was why I used the word still counting.
And
wow.
The goal for us is to hit 100,000 this year, and we're on track to that.
So much. It is the confidence for me, guys. It is the confidence, like, you know that part where you say you download, you don't download, it will be downloaded. So just download. If you don't, it will still be downloaded.
And to the community, right, that are probably watching, maybe would add that, in the description of this podcast. There's quite a lot of giveaways and a lot of advantage, right, when you do download the app. For example, one of the biggest challenges we face, particularly new immigrants, and by new immigrants, I'm not necessarily speaking to anybody that has migrated today or yesterday.
True.
Even in the last 10 years,
True.
You're still relatively a new immigrant.
Good.
Particularly if your credit score is below 750. No, you're still a new immigrant. So what I tell folks, I say, look, that credit score, it may seem small or insignificant, but it's the way your financial well-being is being evaluated. It's the way your everything financial is being evaluated. And so you're standing at further risk by not growing it. It's our biggest barrier.
Word.
As people.
Word.
Here, right? It's our biggest barrier. So one of the things that we are doing at Expedia is to say, we pick your everyday transactions on the app and we report that to the credit bureaus to help you build credit. To impact your credit score positively for it to grow. You see? Such that down the line, maybe you need to close a mortgage or you need a car loan. When they look at that score, okay, this person has a good score. Then you get it easier and at a better rate. Okay? And at a better rate. So that's one of the beautiful things we do. For example, a lot of us, we pay rent, right?
True.
But the rent only goes to provide us with just shelter, right? But that rent is paying your landlord's mortgage, right? So rent is also creditworthy. But your landlord won't report it for you. Neither will your banks report it for you. At Expedia, we will report it for you to help build your credit. So it's not just providing shelter alone. It's doing something much more for you. So download it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an amazing time hanging out with the CEO and founder of Expedia Incorporated, Mr. Kingsley Madu. Before I sign out, I did that at the beginning of this show. Let me recapitulate. Please, if you've not subscribed to our channel, I'm begging, I'm asking that you please do so. That is how we push forward. That is how we get pats on the back that we're doing a great job. And of course, we'll continue to bring you amazing personalities doing great works in the Black community like Mr. Kingsley Madu. Guys, my name is Martins Benson. I am fondly called the Mic Master. Thank you so very much for your time. It is not easy, but we know you enjoyed this particular episode. Mr. Kingsley, thank you so very, very much for your insight. Thank you for your nuggets. Thank you. It was an amazing convivial conversation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful.
Guys, join us. The same place you're watching next week. Until then, on behalf of I and the entire team of Afro Journal Podcast, we'll see you next week. Bye for now.